All right, everyone. It is 11:59. We'll give everybody a minute or two here to get signed in and everything, and then we will get our webinar started. All right, it's 11 a.m. Central Time, and we are ready to get started. So, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Jira Service Management Fundamentals webinar. We're so glad you are able to join us today for this overview of Jira Service Management. My name's Brad Wood, and I'm a consultant and Atlassian certified professional with XPM, a Valiantis company. Today, I'm going to be walking you through Jira Service Management to highlight many of its strengths and capabilities. At XPM Valiantis, we are a platinum solutions partner of Atlassian, and we provide a number of different services based around Atlassian products, including solutions, consulting, licensing, and training, like this webinar, for example. We also work with a full stack software development company that creates custom solutions for Jira through avenues such as app development and API integrations. We offer consulting and licensing services across the entire Atlassian suite of products for organizations of all shapes and sizes, anywhere in the world, and for any platform, including cloud, private cloud, and data center. At XPM Valiantis, we have the culture and mindset to make Atlassian products work for you. Due to our cutting edge curiosity, our commitment to value, and our customer centric approach, we are invested in your success and engaged with your strategic goals. In addition to our webinars, we also have extensive training classes on other Atlassian products, like our 4-day Jira Software and Confluence Bootcamp, as well as our Jira Service Management Bootcamp, which is a 2-day class that takes a comprehensive look at everything you need to know to effectively use and administer Jira Service Management. This course is designed for both administrators and service desk managers. Our boot camps focus on retention and our interactive workshops designed to leave users confident in their understanding and use of the tools and processes. You can find more information on this and all of our upcoming boot camps by visiting xpm.com/training. All right, so Jira Service Management. What is Jira Service Management and who is it for? Well, it was originally created as a service management tool for IT departments, but over the years, it has evolved into a much more robust platform. Now it's not just for IT teams, it can be for any service team. So, your HR team, your legal team, your marketing team, really anybody who's providing a service or receiving requests from customers can benefit from using Jira Service Management. In addition to a service management tool, JSM is a support system with knowledge bases, a ticketing system. It can be an asset manager. It really has a wide variety of powerful features that are found within the platform. Jira Service Management provides an intake channel and tracking for your service requests. It helps support and track your customer success by keeping a record of those service requests, and it helps keep your customers up to date on their requests. Jira Service Management can be connected to internal and external knowledge bases, which we'll look at some of this functionality a little bit later today in this webinar. It tracks and maintains SLAs, which we will learn how to configure later today. It provides a clean and highly customizable customer portal for requests to be submitted. This provides a centralized location for your customers to submit their service requests, as opposed to using a large, inconsistent list of communication methods such as email, Teams chat or Slack, phone calls, passing someone in the hall, etc. Provides a location for your customers to view the status of their service requests, as well as a communication channel between your customers and your agents. And it helps ensure that customers are providing the necessary information with their requests, which we will learn how to set up later this morning. JSM can be used for both internal and external customers, so your customers do not necessarily need to be a part of your organization in order to use some of the functionality. And you can also use automation for Jira to help you automate some of those repetitive tasks, saving your agents time and increasing efficiency, ultimately leading to quicker resolutions to your customers' requests. One thing to note is that JSM is built upon Jira software. So if you're already familiar with Jira, you'll probably notice many similarities within JSM. But if you don't have any experience with Jira, that's okay, because JSM works as a standalone product as well. So today we're going to review Jira Service Management through 3 different perspectives: our customers, agents, and administrators. These are the main perspectives that JSM users will be utilizing, and we'll cover how the tool supports each of these types of users. Our customers are those people who will use the Help Center to raise, track, comment on requests, share requests, and view knowledge base articles. Our service team, or our agents, will be viewing and managing those requests. They can create and manage knowledge bases. They'll use queues, view reports and SLA metrics, and manage our customers. And then our service administrators will perform all agent tasks. They can configure portals, request types, queues, reports, SLAs, and so on. Jira Service Management also includes a lot of advanced functionality and features, and these include incident management, change management, and assets, just to name a few. We do have a 1-hour webinar that covers these advanced features coming up on October 5th at 11 a.m. Central Time. This 1-hour webinar builds off of the JSM Fundamentals webinar that you're currently watching, and it'll take an in-depth look at all the advanced ITSM features of Jira Service Management. Please scan the QR code or visit xpm.com/training to sign up for this free 1-hour webinar. All right, with that being said, let's dig into Jira Service Management, and want to remind everybody that we do have a Q&A part of this webinar. So if you do have any questions on anything that maybe I haven't covered, or you'd like to get some more in-depth information, put your questions in the Q&A section of Zoom, and we will get to those as time allows. And if we do run out of time, we will try and address all of those questions after the webinar ends. So let's jump into Jira Service Management. So Jira Service Management has a variety of intake methods for your customers to submit tickets, including via email, via chat, via widgets, if these options are configured. But today we're going to focus on the Help Center. And the Help Center is where your customers can submit their requests, view the status of those requests, interact with agents, view knowledge base articles, just a wide variety of functionality within the Help Center for your customers. And this is really the area of Jira Service Management in which your customers will spend all of their time. So how can they find the right information or request form or anything like that within the Help Center? Well, we can notice right off the top here, we have what we call our smart search bar. And this will help the user find both request forms and knowledge base articles. So for instance, if I click in here, and let's say I'm having some trouble with my VPN, I can search for VPN, and Jira Service Management will provide me with these 2 articles. We can see that VPN is included in the name of these articles. And then there's several request types at the bottom here. All of these might be related to VPN issues in some way. So the idea with these articles is really ticket deflection. And what we're shooting for here is to use our knowledge base articles to guide customers to potential solutions that'll help them solve their issues themselves, resulting in less tickets being submitted to our agents. So let's click into one of these articles and see how this might be set up. This is just an example article. It's got some text in Latin here, just as an example. It's got an image of this cat. Again, this is just a demo article, but you can see there's there's some options here. You could add any kind of text or images that might be helpful to your customers for this particular article. At the bottom, we see, did this article help? And I can choose yes or no. These results are saved and can be reported on the back end of Jira to give us some insight onto the effectiveness of our knowledge base articles. So in this instance, this article is probably not very helpful to me, so I would choose no. This is not helpful. And we have another option here. Do you still need to raise a request? And in this case, I would click yes, or just click this button. And this will take me to a portal with several different request types that I can choose from to submit a request. For now, we're going to go back to the Help Center, though, and look at the rest of this main page. So underneath our smart search bar, we can see that there's an announcement here. This is just a demo announcement, but your administrators could add an announcement with any kind of information that is relevant to your customers here. So if there's some kind of outage that they are aware of and they're currently working on it, maybe you add an announcement here so people know, hey, we know about this issue, we're working on this, and then maybe they don't need to submit a service request based around whatever that topic might be. Directly below that announcement, we see our topics section. And what these are collections of related elements that could be useful to your customers in a variety of ways. The topics section can include request forms, knowledge base articles, and external links to something that are all related in some fashion. They can also be cross-project. So unlike portal groups, which we'll talk about in a minute, portal groups can only display content from a single Jira service management project. Our topic section can display things from multiple projects. So if for some reason you needed that functionality, that is here in the topics section. We go back to the Help Center. There is this customize button on the right-hand side. So if our administrators need to make some changes to our Help Center, we can do that. We can add a login message. We can add announcements. We can customize our look and feel. So perhaps we want to change maybe this blue color to a different color that aligns more with our organization's branding, or if we want to add a logo, something like that. And we can edit the layout of this Help Center page as well. So below topics, we see featured portals. And what these are portal groups. Each of these portals is connected to a project in Jira Service Management. And you can think of them like subsections of the Help Center based on a certain department, a certain function, etc. These will help keep your request types organized based on some kind of similar trait or function. Again, maybe they're all related to a specific department. You can have multiple request types within a single portal. And access to these is managed on the back end, and each portal can be restricted so that your customers can only see the portals that they should have access to within the Help Center. So let's click into the IT Service Desk portal. And we can see a lot of different information here. We can see this breadcrumb trail at the top. So we've gone from our Help Center to the IT Service Desk portal. And these are clickable links. So if for some reason you do need to go back to the Help Center, you can just click right here. There is a status update right here. Again, this is just a demo status update, but you can add these within your portals. And then we see Contact Us About. And these are our portal groups. And what these are collections of request types that are all related in some way. So we see under computers, request a new laptop, get IT help, request new software, request new hardware. These are all related to computers in some way. Likewise, we have logins and accounts. We have applications, servers and infrastructure, etc. And these are all, again, these individual request types that are related and grouped together in some way. So we're going to click into computers. And then we see our list of request types. And again, we have that same breadcrumb trail up here. If for some reason we clicked into the wrong group, we can click this drop down, and again, we see logins and accounts, application, servers and infrastructure. And then what can we help you with? These are all of our request types. So we can choose any of these. I'm going to choose request a new laptop. And this is our request type. This is our request form for this request type. And we can see again our portal group. We can see here a drop-down list of all the request types within that portal group. So if for some reason I clicked the wrong one, I could go to a different one. Directly under that, we see this field, raise this request on behalf of. So if for some reason I needed to submit a request on behalf of somebody else, maybe another member of my team, somebody like that, I could choose any of these users. But for now, I'm going to leave this selected as myself. We see reason for requesting new laptop, and this is a drop-down field. I can select any of these options. I'm going to say my current equipment is damaged. And directly under that, we see any additional details. This is a paragraph field. This has a lot of text formatting options. We can change the size and add headings. We can bold, italicize, change our colors. We could add a bullet list or a numbered list. We can add links. We can mention somebody, add an emoji. There's a wide variety of text formatting options within these types of fields. And really, are there any other additional details I need to submit on this request? I'm going to say I dropped my laptop and the screen broke. So our agents have a little bit more insight into why I'm requesting a new laptop. Our next field is which model would you like? And at face value, this appears to be just a simple drop-down field, but this is actually linked to our assets database, which is one of those advanced ITSM features we talked about at the beginning of this webinar. And we're not going to have time to go in depth on assets in this webinar, but it is covered in depth in that ITSM webinar, which we are hosting next week on the same day at the same time. I'm going to choose a MacBook Pro 16-inch. And lastly, assignment group. This is also related to assets, and I'm just going to choose group A, laptop maintenance, because that seems to be the right group. Once I've filled out my form and everything has a value, one thing to mention here is any field that has the red asterisk, those are required fields. So if I hadn't filled anything out in those fields, I would not be able to submit my request. But everything looks good. I'm going to click send. And now my ticket's been submitted. There is a lot of information on this screen. We are gonna come back to this in just a moment, but very briefly, I want to show a different form that has a little bit more sophistication and a little bit more structure on it. So I'm going to click into our HR service desk, and I'm going to select employee onboarding. And right away, we can see that there's a lot more going on this form. There's different types of fields. There's a date field. There's these radio buttons where you can select yes or no. We can see some tables and some columns set up. And we'll look briefly at how to set up a form like this a little bit later this morning. But one thing that's kind of cool with these types of forms is you can do contextual fields. So for instance, this business cards needed field, if I click yes, displays a lot more fields for me to fill in, you know, all the information that I would need to provide if I need business cards, my name, my job title, email, etc. So again, we'll look a little bit closer at how to configure one of these, what we like to call dynamic forms. But just a quick look at that. So let's look at the request that I submitted. And the easiest way to get back to your request is in the top right-hand corner to just click requests. And you have a couple options, created by me, approvals, and all. And I'm going to select created by me. And we can see a list of service requests that I've submitted. There are several options here for how to filter these requests. If I click in the status section, right now we're just viewing open requests, but I could also view closed requests to see anything I've submitted that is resolved or closed. In this dropdown, created by me, created by anyone where I am a participant, those are the options here. And I could also filter these by request type. So maybe I only want to see my employee onboarding request, for instance. I could filter my requests that way. We have several columns here that will just show you a brief overview of all of your tickets you've submitted. You know, the request type is represented by these icons, and if you hover over it, you can see what those request types are actually called. You have your reference numbers here, which are your issue keys on the back end of Jira, your summary, and these are clickable links, so you can click directly into your ticket from these two columns. I can see the status that my tickets are in. So another just quick look at where my tickets are in their life cycle. Which service project did I submit these through? Who requested them? And when were they created? So now let's click into the ticket I just submitted. And we can view all the information on this ticket. So everything that I filled out in the form is in this details section. So all of these different questions I needed to answer, who submitted it, submitted it today at this time. This section is collapsible if you need it to collapse for some reason. In the activity section, this is where we'll keep our customers in the loop on their request. So any kind of comments back and forth between the customer and agents will be displayed here. Any other kind of information, you know, we can see here this request requires an approval. So once that ticket is approved, we will see some of that information in this activity section. And if I do want to add a comment, I can do that here. Again, I do have some text formatting options. But I could submit this comment to the agents working this ticket on the back end, and they will see that in their view on the back end of Jira. On the right-hand side, we do see this is in the waiting for approval status. I could turn my notifications on or off for this ticket if I so choose. I can cancel it if for some reason I don't need anybody to work on this request anymore. We can see the request type. We can see that it's shared with me currently. If I want to share it with another JSM user or perhaps somebody with just an email address, I can do that here. I can type in anybody's name and select that person if I do want to share this ticket with them. And then we can see here, again, there is an approval needed on this ticket. And that's really it for the customer-focused portion of this webinar. So now we're going to walk through Jira Service Management from an agent's point of view, and I'm going to do that by viewing this ticket on the back end. And so if you're familiar with, again, Jira software, this might look a little similar to what you've seen in the past. But this is the agent view for a ticket. And right away, we can see there's a lot more information displayed here, and we will go through this information in detail. So at the top, we can see our issue key, we can see our issue type, we can see our summary field. So again, new laptop request. And in this, again, this details section, this is where all of the form fields translate to the issue view for our agents. So all of that information I needed to fill out to submit my ticket is displayed here. And we can see here, I raised this request via the portal. So something to note is that your internal users, so your agents or your admins potentially, can submit requests by just using the blue create button on the back end here. So another piece of functionality that's similar to Jira software. Another cool thing here is if you remember on the ticket I submitted, there was a field that said any additional details ? That is just a customer-facing name for that field, and that field is actually linked to our description field, which is a Jira system field. And we can see here the information I typed in there is now displayed in the description field on this ticket. And we'll take a little bit of a look at how to configure a different customer-facing name for your fields a little bit later. Directly under the summary field, we can see create subtasks. So if I need to add some additional work on this ticket, or maybe loop somebody else in, or we've got some more steps to fulfilling this request, I could create some subtasks. I could link other issues to this ticket. So if we've got some other existing tickets that are related to this in some way, I could link an issue, and you have several options for your link types, is blocked by, blocks, clones, etc., etc. So if you need to do that, you can do that from up here at the top. I could add an additional form to this ticket if I need to. Perhaps I need some additional information from this customer to be able to work on this ticket. I could add an additional form here. And then in this demo instance, we do have a plugin called Tempo installed. So this button here would be used to plan and track time on this ticket. Again, this is a plugin we have installed here, not native functionality to Jira Service Management. So I'm going to collapse that section for now. And on the right-hand side, we can see our status dropdown. And we can see that this ticket is currently in the waiting for approval status. If I click in here, we can see some potential transitions that I could transition this ticket to, some other statuses. We can also view the workflow directly from here. So if I click View Workflow, and again, workflows do work very similarly in Jira Service Management to Jira Software. So we have our 3 status categories, anything in gray being that to-do category, blue in progress, and green done. We can see all of our transitions within here and what they're called, and just a quick way to view the workflow that this ticket is currently using. And then right next to that, this Actions drop down. This is where you'll see any manually triggered automations that you might have available. And you do have some handy links here directly to automation management to be able to create an automation, and your audit log. If you're having trouble with any of your automations, you can view what's going on with those in the audit log, and that'll help you solve maybe problems for automations that aren't firing for some reason. And so directly under waiting for approval, we can see that this ticket is waiting for one approval. So if I click in here, we can see that one person from the approvers field must approve this, but no one has been added. So I am going to add myself as an approver so I can approve this ticket. And now, if I go back to the ticket, we can see this request requires your approval. And I have 2 options, approve or decline. Behind the scenes, there's going to be an automation to automatically transition this ticket when it's approved or declined. And those will be 2 different transitions. For now, I'm going to click approve. And now we can see that the ticket has transitioned to waiting for support. So again, that's a back-end automation that says if or when a ticket is approved, transition it to waiting for support. So that can be really helpful when you're using approvals to help automate some of those transitions. Directly below that, we have our SLAs. And SLAs, if you're not familiar with those, are service level agreements. And really, the way I like to think of those is they are how quickly are we saying we are going to do something on our ticket. So we can see here this ticket is using 2 SLAs, time to first response and time to resolution. And really what those are we're saying within 4 hours, we're agreeing that we will reply to our customer with some kind of update on their ticket, even if it's just, hey, we got your ticket and we're working on it. And then time to resolution within 8 hours. So we're saying within 8 hours, we are agreeing to resolve this ticket and solve their issue in some way. In this section, there will be colors and other visual representations on these SLAs when they are either in risk of breaching or have breached. And we'll take a little bit of a deeper look at how to configure SLAs later this morning. We're not really going to go into the pinned field section, but if you do want to pin a field, you can to have quick access to it in this section. For now, let's go to the details section. And we can see a lot of different fields here, starting with knowledge base. So our knowledge base is suggesting 2 related articles on this ticket that Jira says are related to this ticket in some way, maybe a keyword, maybe some of the topics that are addressed in these articles. And really what these are is suggested articles that might help me as the agent resolve this ticket quicker. And so it's important to keep your knowledge base up to date and as detailed and accurate as possible, because you can really help move things along a lot quicker by leveraging some of that functionality. And this is powered behind the scenes by Confluence. So you may notice some similar functionality within these articles if you are familiar with Confluence. Directly under knowledge base, we have assignee. This is currently unassigned. We have this handy assign to me link. So if I do want to assign this ticket to myself, I can quickly do that. We can see that I am the reporter, which means that I requested or I submitted this request. The request type, one thing to note here is that this field can be updated by agents. So if for some reason I've submitted the wrong request type, I could change this as an agent to say new mobile device. Maybe I needed to submit that instead of request a new laptop. Some other fields to call out here, priority. This can really help draw attention to critical issues and tickets. This field is configured globally by your Jira administrator, so you will not be able to have custom options for priority based on the project. It is a global field. And then lastly, our automation field. This section is going to list the details regarding any automation rules that have been triggered by this ticket. We're not going to go extensively into automation configuration in this webinar, but we do cover this in our Jira Bootcamp. And our next one is going to be held on October 23rd through the 25th. This will also include our one-day Confluence Bootcamp, which will be on October 26th. I'm going to collapse our details section. Our more field section, these are configured by your project administrator. They don't have to appear on your ticket if they're not needed, or you could have them move these to the details section if they are needed and you'd like to see them in that section instead. Going back to the center of our ticket, we have similar requests. This section is going to provide a list of other issues that are similar in terms of their summary and or their description. And we can see right here, Jira is telling us this results with a similar summary and description. So these can be useful for your agents to review past tickets and hopefully provide some insight on a solution to a problem. They also can highlight the frequency in which similar requests are being submitted in order to create a greater sense of urgency, or maybe show the need to look into a larger issue. Maybe we've got a bigger issue here since so many people are submitting requests for new laptops. You can link these to the current ticket by just clicking this link icon. And then if you so choose, you can provide some feedback to Atlassian here in terms of whether or not these results are relevant to you. So now let's look at the activities section. This is similar to what was displayed in our customer view, but with a lot more options and a lot more detail. So starting here, if you click all, we're going to see all of the activity that's happened on this ticket so far. So we can see I created the issue 16 minutes ago. Somebody needs to approve it. I added a comment. I approved it, et cetera, et cetera. Really, this is the story of everything that's happened on this ticket so far. If we click comments, we'll just see any comments that have been added on this ticket. As an agent, you do have a couple of options here. You can add an internal note, which only agents or maybe your administrators will be able to see, or you can reply to the customer, and that's how you would communicate directly with your customer. Again, these have all your different formatting options here, which is great if you need to add some additional information for somebody. One other thing to note with internal notes is they will be highlighted in this kind of peach or yellow color, which will help you visually differentiate between your internal comments and your customer-facing comments. And then likewise, if I comment to a customer, these are not highlighted. So again, just helping differentiate a little bit between your internal comments and your customer comments. Another cool feature here is the use of canned responses. So what you can do with your canned responses is utilize these for comments or responses that are either high frequency, you're using them all the time, or perhaps they need to include some specific language or something like that, or a link or some kind of information that needs to be used on a repetitive basis. So if I click canned responses, we can see we've just got one set up right here. It has a name. The response is the, excuse me, the text that would actually be displayed in the response. I could click insert response if I want to use this one. I can also create a new response, canned response. And I have two options. I can either make this a personal canned response where this would be agent specific. I would be the only person who can use this canned response, or I can make this shared and you can see all agents in this service project would be able to use this canned response. And again, you would just enter a name, enter in your text for your response. You can use some Jira Smart values here. So if you are familiar with those, you could use like issue reporter, for instance, and that'll pull the person who submitted the request's name to kind of help personalize these canned responses a little bit and maybe make them a little bit more dynamic. Our history section will also display a variety of information related to the ticket, similar to all work logs would display time tracking information if your team is using this functionality. Time and status is another option you could display if you're using it. We can see here that this ticket was in waiting for approval for just over 10 minutes, and now it's been waiting for support for a little bit over 9 minutes. And lastly, our approvals section. This shows all of the activity related around approvals. So again, we can see that it was waiting for approval and I approved it, and then the approval step was completed. All right, let's look at some configuration options, which would lead us into that administrator role here in Jira Service Management. We're going to start with queues. And what queues are how tickets are sorted and displayed for your agents. This is a great way for your agents to quickly see a list of all open requests or maybe closed requests that meet a specific criteria. If you're familiar with Jira software, you'll probably notice that Jira Service Management does not use boards, and instead they use queues. They work the same way as a filter in Jira software for those familiar with this functionality. And you do need to be a project administrator to create and manage your queues. So we see several sections here: starred, team priority, and other. And we have a variety of queues set up here. If I click all my tickets, for instance, this queue will be unique for every agent in your project, and it's built on a current user in its filter. So I don't have any tickets assigned to me, so I'm not seeing anything here, but if I did have something assigned to me, I would see it here. On the other hand, if I click all open tickets, this is not unique to every user, and this is just every open ticket that's in our IT Service Desk service project. So we can see several columns are displayed here. These are all configurable, but you want to choose the columns that will be most helpful to your agents in this queue. So we see request type, key, summary, reporter, assignee, status, when was it created, and then our two SLAs, time to resolution and time to first response. Some of these fields are actually updatable directly from the queue, which is really great. So if I want to assign this to myself, for instance, I could just click assign to me after clicking in this field. I could change the status of this ticket if I want to directly from the queue, which is nice. There's also some bulk actions functionality here. So you could select more than one ticket if you want to update certain fields. You can also select every ticket and you're presented with several options. You can click find similar requests. You could link an issue to all of these other issues. I could add a comment to all of these issues. I could assign all of these issues to a certain person, transition them all, approve, or delete them. So another great way to make some updates on several tickets all at once. Let's take a look at how to customize a queue. So what we can do is click the three dots and select edit queue. We could also clone this queue or delete this queue, but for now, let's edit this queue. And we can see here, filter by. So this queue is already filtered by the project. So we don't need to include that in our query for this filter, which is, again, how the queue is built. So we can see that this is built in JQL. If you're not familiar with that, it is Jira query language and is kind of the backbone of Atlassian products. We can see here that we're looking at all tickets where the resolution is unresolved. And then there's an order by function here as well. And if you don't want to write your queries in JQL, you can just switch to this basic mode and you have some drop downs here that you can choose from. You can add other fields to filter your tickets by if you want to do that. Likewise, you can also customize the columns that are displayed in your queue. So we can see here, those are all those columns we just spoke through. If I want to add more, I could just type something in here and add labels if I want to, or anything that's included in this project. And lastly, to move queues around in these lists. So we can click Manage Queues, and here's our sort of two sections. We have Team Priority and Other. If we'd like to move these to one or the other, it's very simple, just drag and drop. We could also create a new queue from this section, and it would be very similar to what we were just looking at. We would need to create a filter, choose our columns, etc. And one thing to note is this is global for all of your agents within the project. So if I change the order of these queues, that will display for all of our agents. Luckily, our agents have this starred section as well, and this does not affect other users. So if I want to move all open tickets, for instance, to my starred section, I would just click this star. It'll move the queue to my starred section, and then I can see it very quickly at the top of this list of all of the queues that are available in this service project. We're going to go back to our project, and we are going to take a look now at SLAs. And so here in our project settings, we have several different things we can configure within our project. We'll go into a few of these in this webinar, but again, our Jira Service Management Bootcamp is really the place to get that extensive training on all of these different options here. So I'm going to click into SLAs. And again, SLAs are service level agreements. It's the level of service that the team has committed to providing to our customers. They can be thought of as goals that have a specific time frame in which they should be achieved. And you do need to be a project administrator to create and manage SLAs. So we can see here in our demo project, we've got 4 SLAs set up, and these are the names of the SLAs: time to resolution, time to first response, time to close after resolution, and time to review normal change. So let's click into time to resolution, and we can see all the different parameters that are configurable for this SLA. So first we have this goals list, and that's really where we got that like 4 hours to first response or resolution that we were looking at earlier on the ticket. We can see in our goals section, we have the time goal, the calendar against which this SLA is measured, and then issues to display in JQL. And that really is asking which issues should this time goal be applied to. So for this first line, within 4 hours on a sampled 9 to 5 calendar, which is just 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, anything that is an incident should be resolved within 4 hours. The next one, within 8 hours, anything that is a service request should be resolved within that 8-hour goal. And then for all remaining issues, we have no target. So there's no resolution SLA assigned to any remaining issues that are not service requests or incidents. Next in our conditions section. So time will be measured between the start and stop conditions below. So we can set up here when to start counting time against our SLA, when to pause counting time, and when to finish counting time. So we have this set up to start counting time when an issue is created or the resolution is cleared. So let's say a ticket was closed and it's been reopened for some reason. Our best practice would be to clear the resolution field and then continue counting against that SLA, because that ticket is no longer resolved. It's continuing to be worked on, and therefore we should count against our SLA. We can pause counting time during certain times. So we have this configured for pausing when our status is pending or when our status is waiting for customer. And really what this is saying is our agents can't work on this ticket currently because it is in a pending status or a waiting for customer status. So we don't want to count against our SLA in those instances. And then finally, finish counting time when the resolution is set, when the ticket is resolved, when the issue is completed, and that's when we will finish counting time, is when our resolution field is set. We do have some options here, and I'll need to click this edit button to show this. For our SLA format display, we can choose between due date centric or time centric. So due date centric, we can see that our SLA is due today at 5:30 a.m. or today at midnight. The time centric is more of a countdown approach. So you've got 7 hours and 59 minutes left before your SLA is going to breach. These are mostly up to personal or team preference. So you can choose one of these two. Let's talk about the calendars a little bit more. So again, these SLAs are set up with this sample 9 to 5 calendar. If we click the calendar icon, we can look a little bit closer into this calendar. It is set up to this particular time zone, and we can see here it is indeed set up 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. So it will not count against the SLAs outside of those working hours on those specific days of the week. You can add calendars if you'd like to. You could make this a 24 hours, 7-day-a-week calendar. You could make this a custom calendar based on some other criteria. Maybe your team doesn't work 9 to 5. Maybe they work different hours, and you want the SLAs to count between that time frame and not just your standard 9 to 5. You can even include holidays to pause your SLAs. And you can import those from an ICS file, or you can add them manually. So you do have some options there to not count against your SLAs. on specific days or holidays, something like that. So that's it for SLAs. Now let's look at request types. So I'm going to go back to my project settings and click request types. And remember that the customer portal is composed of request types. These then create issues in our JSM project. Each request type creates a specific issue type in JSM. So we can see here the list of all of our service request types that we have in this project and the issue types that they will create, as well as the portal group that it is associated with. So for instance, request a new laptop, which is the request I submitted, will create this service request with approvals issue type, and it's in the computers portal group. One thing to note here is that an issue type can be associated with more than one request type. So we can see that this service request with approvals applies to both request a new laptop as well as new mobile device, but each request type can only be associated with one issue type. The idea here is to help create some efficiencies on the back end. If you have several request types that are using the same configurations like workflows, screens, fields, etc., you can associate more than one request type with the same issue type and create some efficiencies there. So let's click into request a new laptop and look at how these are configured. So the first thing we see here, we are in our request forms section and we see request type description. So this is just a little bit of an explanation for your customers on what this request type should be used for. This section directly below this is where you will choose the fields that appear on the request form, either Jira system fields or custom fields. And this helps make sure that your customers are providing the right information for your agents to start working on their requests as quickly as possible. And one thing you can do here, you can see several of these fields are required, and we saw that on the portal as well. If you just click into any of these, there is this required checkbox, and that's how you designate a field as required. To add a field, you can either choose from this list of suggested fields. You can search all of the fields within your Jira instance that are available in this search button. And then once you find what you want, you can just simply drag it and drop it into this section. And you can also reorder these if you'd like to by just kind of moving it around in this section. I'm going to add this approvers field. And one other thing we talked about earlier was having different text on a field in the customer-facing view versus on the back end. And this is where you would configure that. So for instance, the description field, if I expand this, we can see this field display name. So we're changing the name. So instead of seeing description on that field, our customers see any additional details. And then in the display description, we can add some additional text here to help describe what we want them to provide in that field. Another cool thing you can do here is click this box, use preset value and hide from portal. So if I click this, I could, for instance, in this approvers field, set a default user as our approver and then hide this field from the portal. So the customer won't see this, but on the back end, it will automatically set me as the approver for any of these request a new laptop tickets. So another way to just quickly, again, add some of those efficiencies for your agents. We click issue view. This is how we configure our ticket. So we can add things to our description field section, our context field section, which is where we saw our SLAs and our knowledge base and assignee, all of those fields. And then this hidden when empty field section will put all these fields into that more section that we saw earlier. And again, similarly to the request form, you can just simply drag and drop. You can reorder. You can move things from one section to another in this issue view section. Lastly, workflow statuses. These are all the statuses that are in our current workflow for this request type, but we can change the names of those. So if we don't want one of these names to display to our customer, we can change it on the right-hand side here. And this could be useful if you have, like, for instance, several in progress status category steps, but the customer only needs to know that their request is in progress and not necessarily the detailed statuses that the agents are using. You could simply, change more than one of these to display as in progress to the customer, and they just see that. Maybe they don't necessarily need to see all of the detail on what state your ticket is currently in. That's it for request types. We're going to quickly look at forms, which is those dynamic forms that we talked about briefly. And these can be created if needed to capture further information with your customers, which will then be displayed on the ticket. There are a lot of customizable options for these dynamic forms. If I click into create form very quickly, we can see that there's a lot more editing options here than just in that basic request form with just the system fields and custom fields. We can add all kinds of information here. Again, we can add our lists, our links. We can add some formatting, like maybe a table, and put different fields in these different cells. We can add some formatting, so we could have like the form we looked at previously, different columns on our request form to keep things nice and organized. There are several templates you can build these forms through, provided by Atlassian. And then if you want to do some of that conditional formatting that we saw with the HR onboarding form, you can do this add section, and you can choose to add your sections always or conditionally. And when they're conditionally, they're based on some kind of fields criteria. And that's how we saw that business cards section display once I clicked yes on whether or not I need business cards. We don't have a lot of time for a deep dive on this topic, but this is covered in detail in our Jira Service Management Bootcamp. Again, that next one will be held October 31st and November 1st. And again, visit xpm.com/training for all that information. I do see one question in the chat. Is this webinar recorded? And yes, it is. It will be added to our YouTube page. So if you search for either XPM or Valiantis on YouTube, you should be able to find this, and we'll get this posted as soon as possible once we wrap up here today. Quickly, because I know we're running out of time here, one last Q&A question. Is there any kind of reporting functionality in Jira Service Management? And the answer to that is yes. The way you access that is just from this reports section. Within this section, we've got a couple of sections. Our default reports, which are just system created, and custom, which are user created. Let's take a quick look at this SLA met versus breached report. Again, this was a custom created report. And this is really showing if our agents are getting to all of our customer requests in the agreed upon time frame, again, our SLAs. The time frame that this report is showing is editable, so you can click this drop down and choose any of these options, including a custom range. So if you need to see SLA met versus breach for a specific time period, this is where you would configure that. We can see in this report something's going on. We've got one ticket that has met our SLA and 44 that have breached in the past 7 days. So what's going on here? Why are we not meeting our SLAs? Well, we can look at some of these other reports and maybe help us determine why these numbers are so off. So if we click our workload report, which again, this is a default report in Jira Service Management, we can see not only how many issues each of our agents have in progress currently that are assigned to them, but this red highlight here, if we hover over this, we can see, for instance, this agent has 5 issues with breached SLAs. This agent has 3, so on and so on. So this might help us determine like, hey, do our SLAs need to be reworked? Maybe they're unrealistic or there's some overarching issue as to why we can't meet them. Or perhaps our agents have too many tickets assigned to them, they're overworked or overallocated. This report can help us determine some of that. And then lastly, very quickly, request deflected. This connects back to those knowledge base articles that we looked at on the customer portal. And we can see here that we've had 5 article views from the portal in the past 7 days and 0 requests deflected. This number is tallied by our customers clicking yes when they're asked, was this article helpful? And so none of our knowledge base articles have been very helpful in the past 7 days. So we might want to use this information to take a look at our knowledge base and maybe rework some of those articles to make them more effective and useful for our customers. All right. So that's it for this webinar. We focused on the fundamentals of Jira Service Management, but there is so much more that this tool has to offer, especially in terms of advanced features for ITSM, including incident management, change management, assets, which we touched on very briefly, and much more. Just another quick reminder that the companion to this webinar will be held next on Thursday, October 5th at 11 a.m. Central. And again, that is a free webinar. So feel free to sign up for that to learn some more about Jira Service Management. And again, in addition to these webinars, we also offer boot camps focused on a variety of Atlassian products, which provide a comprehensive look at these products and how to use and administer them effectively. For a complete schedule of all of our upcoming classes, you can visit xpm.com/training or scan this QR code included on this slide. I just want to thank everybody for attending this JSM Fundamentals webinar. I hope you enjoyed this course and that you learned something new about Jira Service Management and how it could be a useful tool for your team or organization. If you have any additional questions regarding JSM or anything else Atlassian related, please feel free to contact me via email or LinkedIn, both of which are included on this slide and will be included in the chat. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.